Hey everyone, welcome to This Explainer. Look, if you're a parent, you absolutely know that feeling. That fierce mama bear or papa bear instinct that just floods your system the second your kid is hurting. Today, we're diving into something that trips up so many of us: how to actually tell the difference between ordinary peer conflict and genuine bullying. It's tricky, right? There's a lot of nuance here. But by the end of our time together, you're going to have a clear, practical roadmap so you can truly protect your child without actually making the situation harder for them.
I mean, we've all been there. That heart-stopping, gut-wrenching moment when your kid walks through the door, throws their backpack down, and says those exact words. "Jordan bullied me at recess." Your brain just goes into overdrive. You want to fix it instantly. It is so incredibly tempting to just slap a label on it in those first 30 seconds to protect them. But here's the thing. Rushing to a conclusion like that, it can actually backfire. Jumping the gun kind of puts blinders on us, and it stops us from seeing the full picture of what's really happening.
To really help our kids, we have to flip the script a bit. See, ordinary peer conflict and bullying, they can look literally identical on the surface. We're talking tears, angry words, hurt feelings, bad choices, the whole shebang. But underneath, the foundations are totally different. Think of ordinary conflict as a disagreement between equals. Both kids are on roughly the same footing and both have some power to negotiate or just walk away. Bullying, though, that is a fundamental abuse of power. It's all about one-sided control and isolation.
Let's get a bit more specific here. The CDC defines bullying as unwanted, aggressive behavior that involves a power imbalance and is repeated or, highly likely to be repeated. That phrase right there, imbalance of power, that is the missing puzzle piece. It's not just about physical strength. Power can be popularity, it can be group size, it can even be digital reach, like having control over a group chat. That unequal power, mixed with repetition, that is what truly separates actual bullying from just a crummy Tuesday afternoon on the playground.
So the big question we need to ask ourselves is, what does the whole relationship look like around that hurtful moment? As parents, we tend to get super zoomed in on the words. "He called me a name," right? But listen, a sarcastic, biting comment between two best friends who can easily hash it out, that's just conflict. Take that exact same comment. Have a popular, high-status kid shout it publicly at a kid who has absolutely no power to stop it? Now we're looking at bullying. We have to look past the specific words and investigate the larger environment.
Which brings us to part 1, common parent mistakes that actually backfire. Let's look at some traps we all fall into with the best of intentions.
Trap number 1 is calling every single conflict bullying. Look, when your kid tells you she wouldn't invite me to the party, it is entirely natural to reach for the biggest, strongest word available, because they're in pain and you want to validate that. But if we label every social disappointment as bullying, we're actually doing them a disservice. We accidentally deprive them of practice. Kids literally need to navigate ordinary disagreements so they can learn how to negotiate, handle frustration, and set healthy boundaries.
On the flip side, mistake number 2 is assuming both sides are equal. You know how adults love to say, "Well, it takes two to tango," or "you both made mistakes." Treating a situation as a mutual disagreement where everyone shares the blame, well, it sounds fair, right? But if it's genuinely bullying, this approach is disastrous. It wrongly blames the targeted child for the abuse they're enduring, and it completely ignores that core abuse of power. Real fairness doesn't mean giving two kids the exact same punishment. It means matching your response to the actual power dynamics.
Okay, this next one is a huge trap, forcing a face-to-face meeting. We instinctively think, hey, let's just sit them down, have them talk it out, shake hands, and move on, right? Well, StopBullying.gov explicitly warns against this. Forced peer mediation absolutely does not work for bullying. Think about it. Making a targeted child confront the very person who holds all the social or physical power over them? That just skyrockets their anxiety. It pressures them to minimize what happened just so they can safely escape the room.
And that leads directly to our fourth mistake. Treating retaliation as proof that the kids are on equal footing. Imagine a middle schooler who's been quietly mocked for months. Finally, one day they just snap and push the kid who's been doing it. The school sees the push and goes, mutual conflict. They're both fighting. No. If a targeted kid finally explodes or fights back, it doesn't suddenly erase the months of power-imbalanced abuse. Now, obviously, we absolutely have to address their inappropriate reaction. You can't just go around pushing people, but we cannot pretend the relationship is suddenly a level playing field.
So, how do we actually figure all this out? Let's move into our next section, the 4 maps. This is a practical investigation strategy. How do we get the facts without accidentally turning into a TV detective interrogating our own kids? Instead of firing off 20 questions in a panic, you can use these 4 maps as your calm toolkit. First up is the behavior map. What exactly happened? Just the facts, no labels. Second, the power map. Who actually holds the advantage here? Third is the pattern map. Is this a one-off or is it a reoccurring thing? And fourth, the safety map. How is this impacting your child's immediate physical and emotional safety right now?
Let's zoom in on that power map for a second, because we so often default to thinking power equals physical size. But power is super situational. When you're chatting with your kid, try gently asking things like, what made it so difficult to stop them? Or could you have walked away safely? Ask if the other kid had more friends around, or maybe an age advantage. Or hey, did they have digital access that your child didn't? Power springs from incredibly subtle things: group size, popularity, holding the keys to the group chat. Getting these little details is exactly how you uncover that hidden imbalance.
All right, moving right along to Section 3, choosing the right response track based on what we found. Now that we've mapped out the facts, they're going to point us straight to the correct intervention. The absolute key here is matching your response to the actual structure of the problem. If it's track A, equal peer conflict, that requires setting boundaries, skill building, and voluntary compromise between the kids. But track B, actual bullying, that's a whole different ballgame. That requires immediate adult-led protection, accountability, and safety planning. You never ask a targeted child to negotiate with a bully. The adults have to step in, stop the behavior, and shut down opportunities for it to happen again. But wait, what if you just aren't sure? What if the facts are muddy? Enter track C, the provisional response. I really want to reassure you here. It is totally fine if you don't have the whole picture right away. You do not have to choose between going into full-blown panic mode or just dismissing the whole thing. Instead, use a provisional response. You basically say, look, I know harm happened, and we are putting steps in place right now to keep you safe while we figure out if this is a conflict or if it's bullying. Protect first, assess second.
So you've got your facts, you know your track. Section 4. What exactly do you say to the school?
When it's time to bring the school in, firing off an angry, highly emotional email usually just makes administrators defensive. We want action, not defensiveness. So here is an incredibly empowering, fill-in-the-blank script you can use. You simply state the factual behaviors that occurred, and then you say this: I am concerned about a possible pattern involving social and digital power. Please tell me who will assess the report and what immediate safety steps will be used. Boom. It is so effective. It directly demands concrete safety measures and a formal review, totally bypassing those vague promises from the school to just keep an eye on it. And don't stop there. Once the school gets involved, you've got to stay engaged and ask some crucial follow-up questions. Ask them, how are you determining the power imbalance? Or are the children being interviewed separately? Remember, no forced mediation. Ask, what changes tomorrow to reduce repetition? Maybe they need to change seating charts or alter hallway transitions. Asking these specific questions holds the school accountable and makes absolutely sure their plan actually matches the real problem.
Okay, to wrap things up, let's look at Section 5, the 7-day family experiment.
If you want to put all this theory into real-world practice, try this little challenge in your home this week. The goal is to hit pause on using the word bullying for just the first 2 minutes of any conversation you have with your child about peer issues. Now, this doesn't mean you're dismissing their feelings or their pain. Not at all. It just means you're using that precious 2-minute window exclusively to ask factual questions about behavior, about power, and about safety. You get to be their calm anchor in a stormy sea, rather than a panicked interrogator. Ultimately, we really shouldn't be starting with the question, was this bullying? The better, deeper question is, what response does this specific situation actually require? Because truly understanding who holds the power in that relationship is the only way we can guarantee that our help actually, well, helps. So the next time your child comes home hurting, will you take a breath, look past the label, and uncover the real structure? I know you can. You've got this. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.